This is Kishore Patwardhan from the Department of Kriya Sharira, Faculty of Ayurveda, Banaras Hindu University. And in this lecture, I will be discussing some important principles of human physiology as found in Ayurvedic textbooks. In Ayurveda, physiology and anatomy have not been separately explained. Sharira Vichaya is a very interesting term that has been used in Charaka Samhita. It has been defined as Sharira Vichayah शरीरोपकारार्थमिष्यते ज्ञात्वा हि शरीरतत्त्वं शरीरोपकारकरेषु भावेषु ज्ञानमुत्पद्यते तस्मात् शरीरविषयं प्रशंसन्ति कुशलाः. This is what has been explained according to Ayurveda. So the meaning of this verse is something like Sharira Vichaya is the science or branch of science that has been explained for the purpose of well-being of human beings. Shariropakarartham ishyate. Jnatva hi sharira tattvam. Why should one study Sharira Vichaya? It is because Jnatva hi sharira tattvam shariropakarakreshu bhaveshu jnanam utpadyate. One will be able to understand the factors that are helpful for the maintenance of health only by understanding what is sharira or sharira, right? Jnatva hi sharira tattvam shariropakarakreshu bhaveshu jnanam utpadyate tasmat sharira vichayam prashamsanti kushalaha. Therefore, sharira vichayam, so this branch of science which is called sharira vichaya has been well acclaimed by the experts. Prashamsanti kushalaha. So sharira vichaya, that is sharira vichaya. Vichaya, chaya means synthesis, and vichaya is opposite to synthesis, that is analysis. So analytical knowledge of human body, that is sharira, right? Sharira vichaya. So that is how sharira vichaya has been explained in Ayurveda, and that is why it occupies an important place as long as the understanding of the interventions and the lifestyle measures that are intended at a maintenance of health are considered, right? So this is about the concept of physiology in Ayurveda. Then there is another important concept called homeostasis in physiology. Nowadays, the term homeostasis is being replaced by the term homeodynamics because the equilibrium of living beings in the living body, right, living systems, is not maintained at a static phase. Rather, it is a dynamic phase. Though it is equilibrium, but still it is maintained because of multiple dynamic factors. That is why the term homeodynamics is being used nowadays to explain what was earlier known as homeostasis. So what is homeostasis? Homeostasis is nothing but the state of equilibrium or a state of normalcy when all the mechanisms operating are operating at their optimal level, right? So vikaro dhatu vaishamyam samyam prakriti ruchyate. This has been explained in Ayurveda. Vikaro dhatu vaishamyam. What is vikara? Vikara is abnormal status, right? Abnormal status or ill health. So ill health is nothing but the vishamata in dhatus. That is, whenever there is disequilibrium, then it is called vikara. So vikaro dhatu vaishamyam samyam prakriti ruchyate. When the dhatus are in the state of normalcy, then it is called prakriti, that is called normalcy. So here the term dhatu has been used to indicate all the factors that are responsible for the maintenance of the human health, right? Dhatu vaisham. Dhatu is actually dharanat dhatavaha, the ones that help in the sustenance of human body, right? At its optimal status, that are called dhatus. So dhatus are translated often as tissues, but all the dhatus cannot be called tissues in the from the modern biomedicine perspective, because the tissue has got a specific definition, and some of our dhatus, they do not meet this definition. Anyhow, we will be discussing that later. Coming to another reference, that is Prakriti Bhutanam tu khalu Vatadinam phalam arogyam. Prakriti Bhutanam tu khalu Vatadinam phalam arogyam. Here, the Vatadi doshas, when they are in their state of normalcy, Prakriti Bhutanam, then it is called, this status is called arogyam. The resultant state is called arogyam. So dhatu, dosha, sometimes they are interchangeably used. So here also vatadinam phalam arogyam indicates that the doshas, when they are in the normal state, right, then of course they are also called dhatus. And such doshas, when they are in the state of normalcy, they result in arogya or well-being or health. Then dhatu samya kriya chokta tantrasyasya prayojanam. The major objective of Ayurveda is nothing but the dhatu samya kriya, that is all the uh, procedures or all the efforts that are aimed at establishing the dhatu samya, that is equilibrium. That is the major objective of this entire science of Ayurveda. So all these references, they point towards the concept of homeodynamics or homeostasis as perceived in Ayurvedic textbooks. Coming to the concept of cell, because these textbooks were written more than 2000 years ago, obviously we cannot expect any explanation based on microscopic appearance of the tissues or cells, but certain explanations, they hint at a conceptual level of understanding of human body and its constituents, especially the units, living units of human body. And certain terms have been used in Ayurveda to indicate some living units, minute units or functional units that make up the entire body, right? So for example, in this shloka, it has been described that Sharira avayavastu paramanu bhedena aparisankhyeya bhavanti. Sharira avayavastu, avayava means parts of the body, they can be further divided paramanu bhedena aparisankhyeya bhavanti. In terms of paramanus, the number of body parts or constituents of the body cannot be finite, rather it is infinite, right? That is why it is called paramanu bhedena aparisankheya, uncountable, right? So two huge number of paramanus are present in the human body, right? Sharira avayavastu paramanu bhedena aparisankheya bhavanti. Ati bahutvat, ati saukshmyat, atindriyatvatcha. That means ati bahutvat means too huge number, ati saukshmyat, too minute, very minute, and the minuteness is to the extent of being imperceptible by the normally functioning sense organs, right? Atindriyatvatcha, beyond the perceptive abilities of sense organs. So this is a very important reference which indicates that the human body can be further divided and redivided to reach a level where the innumerable components are found and they are imperceptible with the normal sensory organs. And then another reference states that apichaike srotasameva samudayam purusham. So according to some authors or some scholars, Charaka quotes certain authors where it has been proposed that the entire human body is nothing but the aggregation or congregation of srotas only. Srotamsi is plural form of srotas. Srotas is singular. So srotasam eva samudayam purusham. The aggregation of srotamsi is nothing but the human body. So human body is nothing but the aggregation of srotas or srotamsi, and it has been further explained that sarvagatatvat sarvasaratvatcha dosha prakopana prashamananam. The factors that influence the doshas, the dosha prakopana and prashamana factors, the factors that suppress the doshas or aggravate doshas, all these factors can spread all over the body. That is sarvagatatvat, sarvasaratvat. They move and they can spread all over the body, and that is why that happens. This movement of such factors throughout the body happens through the Srotamsi. And that is why Srotas or Srotamsi are nothing but the, the fundamental units of body, and therefore these two terms become important for us. One is Sharira Paramanu and another one is Srotas. So these are the two terms which have been explained in Ayurveda to be of um, very minute in nature, structure, and they are of course of functional significance as well. Here comes another reference. Shrotamsi khalu parinam apadyamananam dhatunam abhivahini bhavanti ayanarthena. Shrotamsi khalu. So what are shrotamsi? They are nothing but the parinam apadyamananam dhatunam abhivahini bhavanti. They are nothing but the channels through which the dhatus which are undergoing the process of transformation are carried, right? So dhatus, they are under the continuous process of transformation, that is called parinama is transformation, and dhatus are always under the process of transformation, they undergo the process of transformation. So parinamam apadyamananam dhatunam abhivahini, the ones that carry such dhatus which are undergoing the parinama, right? These are nothing but the srotamsi. Ayanarthena, ayana means the channels or pathways. So all those pathways where some transformation takes place can be termed as srotamsi. Another reference is very interesting again. Swadhatu samavarnani vrittasthulani anuni cha srotamsi dirghani akritya pratana sadrishani cha. Here Charaka says that swadhatu samavarnani, the appearance of corresponding srotas is similar to its corresponding dhatu. So each dhatu has got its own corresponding srotas, right? So swadhatu samavarnani. Swadhatu means its corresponding dhatu and its appearance. Varna is color, right? So color means appearance. So appearance of a srotas is similar to the corresponding dhatu. Swadhatu samavarnani. Vritta sthulani anunicha. So they could be either circular or they could be sthula. Sthula means the ones that are not microscopic, maybe somewhat bigger than the usual ones. Anunicha, anuni is very minute. Anu means minute. So sthula and anu, these are the classifications are that are frequently mentioned in Ayurveda, right? Certain in certain places, sthula and anu. Sthula to indicate gross and anu to indicate the minute, right? So vritta sthulani anunicha. So some of them could be gross and some of them could be minute. So there are two types of srotamsi. Swadhatu samavarnani vritta sthulani anunicha. Srotamsi dirghanya akritya. They could be even elongated sometimes. Akritya, that is in appearance or structurally, and pratana sadrishanicha. Sometimes they could be having the appearance like network like appearance or reticulate kind of appearance or structure. So these are possibly the different structures in the body which especially when the structures which are equivalent to the tissues in the body, right? So this entire explanation basically it is indicative of the two things, right? One is that individual dhatu is structurally related to its corresponding srotas, and second, individual dhatu is functionally related to its corresponding srotas, right? Because in the first shloka in this slide, it has been mentioned that parinamam apadyamananam dhatunam. So the dhatus which are undergoing the transformation, that is metabolic relationship, right? So dhatus are related metabolically to its corresponding srotas. Similarly, dhatus are structurally related to its corresponding srotas, as explained in the second verse. And in today's context, we know that the dhatus or tissues rather, the in terms of biomedical sciences, the tissues are nothing but the aggregation of structurally and functionally similar cells. So a group of cells which are structurally and functionally similar. They form a tissue. So this concept can be uh, identified in these two references in Charaka Samhita. This is very interesting. Coming to the basic tissues as explained in Ayurveda. Again, the translation of dhatu into tissues is a bit problematic because all the dhatus, they do not fit into the modern definition of tissues because, as I already explained, uh, the microscope was not there when these textbooks were written. So the understanding of tissue was from a different perspective. It was not based on histological observations, right? So each tissue was identified and described, has been described from different perspectives. So the perspective from which Ayurveda looks at the human body is not similar to the perspective from which the modern biomedical sciences look at human body. This is the fundamental difference. For example, these are the dhatus, right? Rasad raktam tato mamsam mamsat medasthatosthija asthno majja tatha shukram shukrat garbha prasadajaha. So these are the 7 different dhatus which have been explained: rasa, rakta, mamsa, then meda, asthi, majja, and shukra. And finally, shukra is the dhatu from which garbha is formed, right? So again, rasat stanyam tato raktam asrjah kandaraha siraha mamsat vasas tvachah shatcha medasah snayu sambhavah. These are the upadhatus. So these are the fundamental structural entities which have been explained in Ayurveda, right? Rasat stanyam, stanya and raktam, asrjah kandaraha siraha. That is rasat stanyam tato raktam. That is rasa dhatu has got 2 upadhatus, stanya and rakta. That is, this rakta is not the dhatu rakta. This is actually the artava, right? Stanya and artava. Then asrijaha kandaraha siraha. Kandara and sira are the upadhatus of rakta. Then mamsat vasa tvachaha shatcha. So 6 layers of tvak and the vasa, they are the upadhatus of mamsa. Then medasaha snayu sambhavaha. So snayu are the upadhatu of medas. So these are certain upadhatus, and the primary dhatus are 7: rasa, rakta, mamsa, meda, asthi, majja, and shukra. So it will be pertinent here to discuss what is rasa, rakta, mamsa, meda, asthi, majja, and shukra in brief, because during the further discussions on different srotas or sutamsi, we will be further explaining these entities in detail. So in general, to understand these dhatus, rasa fundamentally indicates all the flowing fluids, the fluids that flow in the body, right? That is called rasa, especially the nutrient fluids, the fluids that contain the nutrient material, right? That is called rasa. Rakta is the red colored fraction in the body, which is responsible for the transport of possibly the gases or oxygen especially. Why do I say so? I will be discussing it later, right? Rasa is colorless and rakta is red colored. So rasa is nutrient fluid, maybe plasma, interstitial fluid, everything should be included under rasa dhatu. Rakta dhatu mainly stands for the red colored fraction which is responsible for oxygenation. And tato, mamsam, mamsa is equivalent to flesh. It cannot be equivalent to muscle, right? There is a specific term called mamsa peshi, which is equivalent to muscle, but mamsa as such is equivalent to flesh, right? Whatever tissue that can be called as flesh can be also called mamsa, right? Then meda is mainly the adipose tissue, but even the circulating lipids in the body, they are to be understood to be included under meda, because there are 2 types of meda. One is baddha meda, another one is abaddha meda. So baddha meda is indicative of the stored fat, and abaddha meda indicates the circulating lipids, moving lipids, right? Mamsa, meda. Then asthi mainly stands for bones, but not only bones. All the structures which resist easy degradation or easy decaying or easy decomposition, right? All such hard structures or uh, the resistant structures, all of them should be included under asthi, because even the nails and teeth are sometimes included as asthi. That is how the bones and asthi are not equivalent, right? All bones are asthis, but all asthis need not be the bones. Then similarly, a majja again is a specific tissue in Ayurveda, right? The majja stands for those substances that fill the bony cavities. So bony cavity may be present within a single bone when the filling becomes the bone marrow, but sometimes a cavity can be formed by the union of several bones. For example, cranium, the cranial cavity also is filled by majja, right? So the brain substance in terms of Ayurveda is majja. That is why Pratitam Vata Rogani has been explained in Majjavaha Sruto Dushti Lakshana, or maybe Majjakshaya also. So that is why Majja is not equivalent to bone marrow. All bone marrow is Majja, but all Majja is not bone marrow, because even the brain substance or brain tissue is also Majja according to Ayurveda. Then Shukra. Shukra again, there are two types of Shukra. The one that circulates in the body, because Shukra is formed from Majja, and this Shukra which is formed from Majja is possibly the the one that represents the hypothalamo-pituitary gonadal axis, the hormones of hypothalamo-pituitary gonadal axis, because they circulate all over the body. And the other Shukra is possibly the male reproductive factors, the semen, or sometimes the sperm, right? And even sometimes the term Shukra could stand for even female reproductive tissues. So these are the tissues and the corresponding meaning of the dhatus. Similarly, rasat stanyam. Stanya is the breast milk. Rakta is again the artava. Sometimes it is equivalent to the menstrual blood, or sometimes it is equivalent to ovum, depending on the context. So contextual understanding becomes important in Ayurveda. Then Kandara and Sira, they are possibly the blood vessels, Siras. Kandara, sometimes it stands for the tendons, or sometimes it stands also for blood vessels, different types of blood vessels. Then Vasa and Tvachaha. Vasa is the fat, especially which is stored in the muscle, that is called Vasa, and the layers of skin, they are called Shat Tvachaha. And Snayu and Kandara, sometimes they are interchangeably used, sometimes they stand for some bigger or smaller structures which are similar to the tendons or ligaments. So this is how you can understand the basic tissues of the body. Thank you.